De Amstelhof, een van de oudste bejaardentehuizen van Europa, zal uiterlijk in het jaar 2006 een dependance worden van de Hermitage, het beroemde museum in Petersburg. Dit project onderstreept de historische banden tussen Petersburg en Amsterdam en is een initiatief van de directeur van de stichting Nieuwe Kerk, Ernst Veen. Vorige week bezocht de directeur van de Hermitage, Mikhail Piotrowski, Amsterdam en wij vroegen hem in de tuin van de Amstelhof wat zijn reactie was toen hij van dit plan hoorde.
Well, the first reaction was certainly surprise, and then immediately great understanding that it's exactly a good solution for many problems and many ideas we have, because we are very big museum with, by definition, is very big, and with all the big plans of will be too much for one place. So the solution is rotating, and rotating it means making exhibitions all over the world, and the best thing to do exhibitions in a place which you know. So to having a permanent exhibition center in Amsterdam is a solution for the problem accessibility of collections, which is the main problem of every museum. Everything must be as much accessible as possible. One thing, and another thing, it's a new step, and a very important new step in developing our cultural relations with Netherlands and with Amsterdam itself, because we do have relations with Nieuwe Kerk, we do have friends of Hermitage in Netherlands, we have a lot of friends, official and just friends, whom we like. We know that there is a big interest to cultural life of St. Petersburg and Amsterdam, and in Europe we know that Amsterdam is becoming a very important cultural center of Europe. So all this, the idea of having this center in Amstelhof, having Hermitage and Amstel, for all this idea will play a big role and is important.
You have a very large collection in the Hermitage, of course, but what part are you not able to show now in the actual museum?
This is exactly the problem. It's not about not being able to show. Museums, there is a difference between museums and galleries, museums and exhibition centers. Museums do collect, and they collect not only for showing, they collect for study, they collect for restoration, they collect for keeping it for next generations, the things will be demanded and so on. So we are showing now something like 5% of what we have. Usually the museum of this kind, like Metropolitan British Museum, show 7, 8, 9, 10%. All other is for temporary exhibitions, because there are a lot of things which could be only shown temporarily, so drawings or tapestry and so on and so on. So the living museum, big museum, must have possibility of rotating and showing things temporary in different places. So that's exactly how, in principle, this kind of establishment, this kind of thing is important for proper museum life. It's not just new place to show, it's a new way of showing things. That's what is important.
Yeah. Is the idea to create here in the Amstelhof a fixed exhibition, or will there also be rotation here?
Well, there'll also be rotation, because that's why we call it exhibition center. We're not going to move part of our collections permanently to Netherlands. It will be impossible against laws and so on. We'll bring our big exhibitions, which we'll do in Hermitage, we'll bring them here, and so every year there'll be a big exhibition from Hermitage showing part of our collection. We have collections in different fields, European paintings and European sculpture, and Eastern and Oriental and ancient and so on and so on. That's what we will show, and will be another exhibition, maybe a smaller scale, also showing about certain themes. So there will be last 1 year and 8 months, and then another exhibition will come, so from Hermitage, but all this will come to a place which is organized, where we know everything, and we'll have a permanent staff, and where a lot of different kinds of museum activities will go on. Not only showing things, we'll have a big children's center. We are very proud of our work with children in Hermitage. We have a lot of experience of working together with our Dutch colleagues on exchange of children and children education. We'll have some other places and facilities to give Dutch colleagues and Russian colleagues possibility to meet and to have much more than just exhibition, another kind of museum life, scholarly conferences, educational things, maybe some concerts and so on.
Yeah. You also have a large Dutch collection in the Hermitage. The Amstelhof is, of course, in Holland. Will the Dutch part of your collection dominate here in Amstelhof, or doesn't that matter?
Not at all. Not at all. In principle, we are not going to bring our Dutch collections here in Amstelhof. And it's kind of not exactly agreement, but that's what we have been discussing with our colleagues in the museums of Amsterdam. And Amsterdam is the capital of Dutch art, and so there is no need to bring here collections of from Hermitage. You had enough of it here, and it will be a wrong kind of competition. We don't want to be in competition. We want to give an addition, and so we'll bring things which don't exist in Dutch collections. As to our Dutch collections which we have, they will come to exhibitions in existing museums of Amsterdam. Like now you have this wonderful exhibition in Rijksmuseum of the Golden Age, and there are 4 great pictures, great masterpieces from Hermitage, including the famous Flora of Rembrandt, which usually never travels, and so on. So this is the way how we will participate in showing the Dutch paintings. Here we will show things which are added to the cultural life of Amsterdam, and there are 2 kind of audiences for which it is done. It will be certainly the tourists coming to Amsterdam. I think we look at this as the second day attraction. Certainly one who comes for the first day tour and for 1 day to Amsterdam goes to Rijksmuseum and Van Gogh Museum. But if he will stay, and we want him to stay second and third day, they'll come to other museums, including Hermitage and Amstel. And another thing, it's even maybe for us, it's more important. It's for Netherlanders, for the Dutch people, for whom we want to show our collections and to invite them to come to St. Petersburg, and to add something, to add so that our collection will participate in the cultural life of Netherlands itself. It's very important. The same thing we're doing in St. Petersburg. For us, tourists are important, but the people who live in the city, they're also very, very important, and we do target them in our activities. The same thing will be here.
Is the connection between Amstelhof and the Hermitage, is it also, say, part of a bigger plan of cooperation between St. Petersburg and Amsterdam?
Yes, sure. It's not exactly part of the bigger plan, but a part of the big event and what is really happening, because St. Petersburg and Amsterdam, with their historical ties, they have a lot of different kinds of programs going on. And even Hermitage has different programs. We have the Hermitage in Amstel, we have Society of Friends of Hermitage in Netherlands, and other things which we are discussing. I think it will part of a very natural process of bringing these 2 cities together, and the experience shows that this city do work together very well. Somehow there is some chemistry between 2 cities. So fast every project which goes on between St. Petersburg and Amsterdam is very successful and is very much appreciated in Petersburg and in Amsterdam. So I think it's a very good natural process which was began by Peter I, who came here, who came to Amsterdam, has seen Amsterdam, was fascinated by Amsterdam. He has seen Amstelhof because it was in existence when Peter came, and then he came back and he founded St. Petersburg. So we can see that here we have the ideological ideological roots of founding St. Petersburg, which we'll celebrate in the year 2003.
When this all will start in a few years, will some of your colleagues from Petersburg, will they also be working steadily here in Amsterdam?
Well, I think it will be rotating like in Cosmos, I think there'll be permanent staff here, and there will be people responsible for the work here in St. Petersburg, and so they'll come for several months, I think, to work, and then coming back as shifts, because it is very important to keep permanent relation with the blood going between these 2 parts of the body, because it is one body, the Hermitage and the World Museum, which oriented on the world.
One of the advantages you have for the Hermitage, of course, is that you can show more of what you have now. What other advantages are there for your museum?
Well, as I told you, it's development relations, because in principle the ideology of museum of today and the Hermitage of 21st century is that museum is oriented on the world, and people of the world are our audience, and we want to reach them. We want to make them access to the museum. That's what I told you. Then we want to develop more steadily our relations with Netherlands, Holland, because there's a traditional relations of our city. We certainly want to make it a kind of place which will invite people to come to St. Petersburg as tourists, and also I think not only as tourists, as businessmen to make investments, as well, cultural people to make some programs and so on. It will be a wonderful outpost, as embassy of St. Petersburg, not only in Netherlands, in Europe as a whole, I think. Certainly also it will help to solve some of financial problems, because certainly, well, it will be a place for fundraising. It will be used for restoration. There's some part of the money earned here will be used for reconstruction of the big of mother or father Hermitage there. So we have, I think we are developing here a very good scheme where culture, relations between people, diplomacy and economy all come together, and each one will help another. And from this point of view, I think it's a really very good model for the relations in the 21st century, because it's quite a new thing which we are trying to organize.
How is the general state of the Hermitage at the moment?
Well, it's normal. It was one of the greatest museums in the world. It is one of the greatest museums in the world. It will stay this way. It's always very active. As you know, in general, the economic situation in Russia is not a very good one, but it always was for the last 300 years or 200 years at least. So we are very active and working hard, and there are a lot of different kind of activities. So Hermitage is fulfilling its mission. Also, well, we have to learn the Western way of living with museums, like museums in Holland, who have to fundraise money. We have been spoiled getting all money we needed from the government. Now the government doesn't give enough money, so we have to find solutions for our problems. And this is also one of the solutions. When you have problems, you are more active in inventing new things. So I think there is always some good thing in having problems and difficulties.
Yeah. Mainly you work together with Ernst Veen from the Stichting Nieuwe Kerk. Is there also a cooperation, supporting cooperation between the government, so to say, of Amsterdam and St. Petersburg?
Yeah, well, first of all, we do have support from side of government of St. Petersburg and government of Russian Federation. We have support of the Ministry of Culture and, well, of the government, the President of Russia. Here we work also with Nieuwe Kerk. We have the foundation of Hermitage and Amstel. We work with the mayor of city and the government of the city of Amsterdam, and also the Ministry of Culture of Netherlands knows about the project and also thinks it to be a good one. And we have also a lot of relations in general with the Ministry of Culture of Netherlands, because Netherlands as a state was also and is helping Hermitage in some of our important projects of inner reconstruction. So it is part of a very active cooperation in general.
Yeah. Every museum has its own style. Is the Amstelhof supposed to copy the Hermitage style, or are they to develop something of their own?
It's a very important question, because definitely Hermitage, Amstelhof will not copy Hermitage style, because it's another kind of a building. But another thing is that certainly we must keep Hermitage style, because what we want, we have to have this kind of outpost of Hermitage, which do have the flavor of Hermitage, the spirit of Hermitage, which is rather special. It's spirit of museum of 19th century, full of history, full of connection between history and art and so on. So we'll see how we will manage to keep this spirit without making it a copy of Hermitage, which will depend on this year's. We say we have some years, but it's not so much, because we have this year to develop the concept, work with the architects, to see how we'll manage to make it Hermitage and still Hermitage and Amstel and not Hermitage and Nieuws. It's a good challenge, an interesting challenge for a museum.
This is a part of a cooperation between Amsterdam and St. Petersburg. There are old ties between these two cities. Do you have any ideas maybe for other projects for cooperation between the two cities?
Well, you have such a big project here, so let us work on it. But there are quite a lot of projects in general, because you know we have the regular program which is called the window to the Netherlands in St. Petersburg. which has different aspects. Today we have met with people who are doing a nice program of renovating the gardens in St. Petersburg, and also there is a lot of relations between the garden palaces near St. Petersburg and, for instance, Hetlo here in Netherlands. We have been beginning now to speak about a television project, which will kind of a special project of a bridge, regular television bridge between St. Petersburg and Amsterdam, or Netherlands in general. Yeah. So there are a lot of cultural projects. We do have musical projects, by the way. There is a musical program or musical project in concerting about with Russian music, which is called Hermitage program. We gave our name because Hermitage is also a center which is very much involved in music. We have a small theater, we have our own orchestra, we have musical project which is called Hermitage Academy of Music. So that's another project which we will definitely share with our Dutch colleagues and friends. So we live in a small world and we'll live together, and a lot of our projects here and there are very good and important, and we are looking forward to have also our Dutch colleagues coming more and more to Hermitage, and musicians also, and we have some plans about exhibitions from Netherlands to Hermitage, to the Father Hermitage and so on. So we have a lot of things to do.
Meneer Veen, de laatste keer dat wij spraken kondigde u aan dat er een grote sponsor zou komen. Die heeft zich nu gemeld, dat is de Nederlandse sponsor, loterij. Hoe gaat zo'n ondersteuning precies in zijn werk? Wat moet ik me daarmee voorstellen?
Zij hebben een bedrag van 30 miljoen beschikbaar gesteld. En daarvan is 20 miljoen voor de investering, de verbouwing van het gebouw. Dat is natuurlijk een gedeelte. En 10 miljoen voor de exploitatie. Dus wanneer het gebouw klaar is en wanneer we de eerste tentoonstellingen kunnen organiseren. Dat hebben ze nu voor 10 jaar gegarandeerd en het contract is getekend. En dat is natuurlijk een fantastische basis en een enorm bedrag wat ons zeer inspireert. En dus zij zijn zeg maar de hoofdsponsor van dit nieuwe initiatief.
U zegt het is een basis waarop u verder kunt werken. Wat heeft u nog meer nodig?
De totale verbouwing, dus het gebouw geschikt maken voor zijn nieuwe bestemming. Dus ook voor de toegang voor alle bezoekers die we verwachten. Ook de voorzieningen die getroffen moeten worden om belangrijke kunstobjecten te kunnen tonen. Het is begroot op ongeveer 80 miljoen. En wij zijn nu in gesprek met de 3 overheden. Dus het ministerie van OCW, de gemeente Amsterdam en de provincie. Dat zij alle eenmalig een bedrag van 20 miljoen zouden geven. Samen met het bedrag van de sponsor. Dan is het geld voor de investering klaar. En wij zullen zelf de gelden vinden voor de exploitatie. Dat is dus het eerste bedrag van 10 miljoen is er. En we zijn in gesprek met nog 1 hoofdsponsor die we ons voorstellen. Die ook zich hier wil met dit project willen steunen. En dan kunnen wij echt definitief het sein op groen zetten. Maar ik ben daar zeer optimistisch over.
En wie dat is, dat mag u nog niet zeggen?
Nee, dat mag ik nog niet zeggen. Nee.
Even om ons te helpen herinneren, wanneer moet Hermitage aan de Amstel opengaan?
Nou, moet is natuurlijk niet juist het woord. Wij hopen dat dat in 2006, dat is ontzettend belangrijk, moet het in nauw overleg te doen met de Stichting Amstelhuizen. Daar worden 2 nieuwe verpleeginstellingen gebouwd en die moeten natuurlijk klaar zijn. En dan kunnen pas natuurlijk de bewoners, de huidige bewoners, het pand verlaten. In onze hele plan wat we opstellen is dat we op het moment dat de laatste bewoner de Amstel verlaat, dat dan de aannemer binnenkomt. En dan is daar gepland dat we nog 2 jaar bezig zijn voordat het gebouw geschikt is. Dus wij hopen 2006. Ja. En ik zou het ook heerlijk vinden als het al eind 2005 is. Maar dan moeten we realistisch zijn en in goed overleg met de Stichting Amstelhuizen. Dus de huidige bewoner van het Amstelhof moet dat natuurlijk afgestemd worden.
Ja. En wie hoopt u dat aanwezig zal zijn bij de opening? Wie zal de opening verrichten?
Nou, kijk, het is zo'n groot project, dus je moet alles proberen in het leven. Dat ik dan toch de hoogste persoon van onze samenleving uitnodig. En dat is natuurlijk de koningin Beatrix. Maar goed, dat moeten we zien. We moeten eerst nog heel veel werk verrichten. Maar het is met groot enthousiasme werken we eraan. En we worden ook zeer geïnspireerd door de vele steun en sympathie met dit initiatief.